53102 if you want to get in touch, or Anton at todayfm.com, or we're at Anton Savage Show on Twitter. There is a new book just out called it's called Out of the Box: The Highs and Lows of a Champion Smuggler, and it's about a man by the name of Reg Spiers. And where it starts is with a story of Reg Spiers' interaction with John McSorley. It is John's son Marcus who has written the book. Reg goes on to do a whole series of other smuggling and stuff, but tell us, Marcus, first of all, about the interaction between Reg and your dad.
Reg and my dad first met in the 1962 Commonwealth Games. My dad was representing Great Britain, Reg representing Australia, and they struck up a really good friendship there. And in the years after that, they wrote to each other. And it was in 1964 that Reg just turned up on my dad's doorstep in Twickenham, London. Basically, he had worked his passage on a Norwegian oil tanker, and he had his sights set on the Tokyo Olympic Games that were upcoming. Unfortunately, because of injury, he wasn't able to make those games, and he'd had a good time in London with my dad. They'd got up to lots of mischief, but it was really time for him to go home, or so he felt. And it was his daughter's birthday, also his brother's wedding. But he was working at the airport at the time, and he'd had his wallet stolen, and Reg wasn't prepared to wait and save the money for a plane home. He wanted to go right away, and he basically came up with this idea with my father that they would, mainly instigated by Reg. Dad wasn't so supportive of the idea, whereby Dad would build him a wooden box, and that they would ship him back to Australia as air freight. He would be sent cash on delivery to a fictitious address.
He sent himself COD.
Sent himself COD. Didn't have the money to pay. Actually, the freight charges would have come to more than an actual plane ticket back, but the fact it was cash on delivery meant there was nothing to pay at his end.
We have your dad on the line as well. John, when Reg turns to you and says, "I want you to build me a box, I'm posting myself to Australia," why didn't you just go with the no?
You have to imagine, you've got a personality here that's an extrovert as an Aussie. Now, I don't know whether you're familiar with Steve-O in The Crocodile Hunter, and Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but if you combined those two personalities, you've got Reg. So you've got somebody who's hyper and persuasive, and he was unrelenting, and push, and in the end I said, we'll give it a go.
So describe to us the piece of construction then. What did you build for Reg?
Well, Reg had been working at the airport, and he'd been working in cargo, and he'd got the information that the largest box that you could, that the plane would carry would be 5 feet by 3 feet by 2.5. And we'd worked out that that allowed him to lie down with his legs bent or sit up with his legs straight. So
how did you handle? Because I'm just thinking, the issue would be, that's fine if you can be sure that the box always remains horizontal. What if they turned it upside down or sat it vertically?
Well, we naturally stuck labels on it, this side up, and and everything. But of course, once he travelled internationally, people couldn't read the signs, and in Bombay finished upside down, and all sorts of problems arose there. But anyway, the box was built with 6x1 timber, and I put a pennywidth gap between each timber so that it would allow him ventilation, and put 2 false ends because we thought if he was pushed up against some big cargo, he wouldn't be able to get out. So there was 2 false ends in it, and he could get out either end.
Oh, so he could pop the ends of the box from inside?
He could from inside, yes. They looked as though they were screwed down and everything from the outside, but actually the ends, he just turned some, some wooden handles, and that allowed you to push the end out.
So when was the last that you saw of Reg on this trip? Did you help him into the box? Did you drop him at the airport?
Oh, yes. I needed help, obviously, and some friends had a van, and we shipped him down to the airport, and away he went. But I say away he went. He didn't go immediately because, particularly at that time, the fog came down. And he was delayed. His takeoff was delayed for 24 hours, and that sort of threw our calculations into chaos because we'd slowed his system down because he had an enormous appetite. Slowed his system down so that he, wouldn't have to do his major toilets. He had in there, a couple of bottles, one with. One to drink and one to pee in, but we had to make some facility for him, not to do a major toilet in there.
So how did you do that?
We were anticipating that he'd probably be about 30 to 35 hours.
And how did you slow down his system?
Well, we had to get him to stop eating so much.
So you took...
he literally, the couple of days before he got in the box, didn't eat much at all.
So you half-starved him, nailed him inside a box, and dropped him in Heathrow and said, lots of luck, Reg, hope to see you again soon.
Pretty much, yes.
Did you have any expectation that he'd survive?
It sounds callous, but he was, he was with us completely. He wanted to do it, and he's prepared to do anything to get there.
Unsurprisingly, this started off quite the odyssey, and Marcus has all of the details of what happened thereafter, because it, believe it or not, it does go downhill. Marcus, we need to take a break. Will you walk us through his journey when we come back?
I can do that for you.
Brilliant, thanks.
The Anton Savage Show on TodayFM with Toyota Quality Service. For the care your Toyota deserves at a more affordable price than you'd think. Toyota, the best built cars in the world.
So before the break, John McSorley was telling us the story of his friend Reg Spiers, 22-year-old at the time, champion Australian javelin thrower, who, when he last saw him, he was in a 3 foot by 2 foot by 5 foot air freight box, dumped at Heathrow, where because of fog, he spent 24 hours in the box on the ground before he even got underway. Marcus McSorley, John's son and author of Out of the Box, The Highs and Lows of a Champion Smuggler. Pick us up from there. What happens next?
Yeah, so basically the fog eventually did clear 24 hours later, and Reg thought, great, I'm on my way. Unfortunately, it was a rookie forklift driver on his first day of work that would be the one to load him onto the truck, to be loaded onto the plane. And Reg was very clumsily loaded onto this truck, and there was quite a jarring impact, which was pretty painful for the guy, as much as Reg, being the tough man he is, wouldn't admit. So anyway, he's on his way, and he's loaded onto the plane. Basically, the first leg would be London to Paris. Now, on this leg, as Dad said earlier on, he'd constructed the box whereby Reg could get out of it and walk around. So Reg actually got out on that first leg and walked amongst his fellow freight. But suddenly, he felt the plane descending, so thought he better get back in the box, because obviously he didn't want to be discovered at the other end. Firstly, though, he needed to take a leak. Nature called, and he did this, and then got back into the box. Basically, brought the doors onto the box, so he was closed in again. Then he suddenly realised that the bottle that he'd peed in, he'd left on the outside, but it was too late to get out. So the French workers at the other end had quite a nasty surprise for them, and they thought it was a prank that the English had played on them.
A bottle of urine.
A bottle of urine, correct.
So he then gets to France. From France, he goes where next?
From France, his next stop would be Bombay, and that was basically the most horrific part of the journey for Reg, because he was left on the tarmac for probably just over an hour there. And
in the midday heat in Bombay.
In the midday heat, and not only that, he was upended, so he had the straps really, digging into his ribs, and he actually got naked in the box at that point. It was so hot. So here was this basically mad Aussie guy naked in the Bombay sun, and that was, I think, probably the one moment in the journey where Reg considered, should I get out now? But in the end, they did pick him up and moved him on, but that could have been quite nasty had it lasted any longer.
They then shipped him to Perth, wasn't it? Perth from Bombay?
Yeah, went to Singapore, and then on to Perth, and in Perth, he obviously was delighted to be home. He was put in a holding shed, got out of the box, and the shed was actually closed up as the workers went outside for their smoko break, and Reg thought that's the time. Now's the time to escape, but it was locked, so he had to actually get some cutters, some wire cutters, and cut his way out. He put on his suit just before that, and basically managed to tag onto a line of a passenger airline that had already landed, and pretty much just walked out with the rest of them.
And because he was cash on delivery, there was no fee for this. He managed this whole trip free and for nothing.
Well, yes. I mean, funny enough, the airline, because it was actually discovered in the end, did try and get the fee from Reg at a later time, but the story was such big news at that point. Originally, the original plan was that they would ship Reg. Reg would get home successfully, and both Dad and Reg would sell the story to the newspapers to pay for the freight charges. That was how the plan was supposed to be.
And John, was it your fault that he was ultimately discovered?
I'm afraid it was my fault because he didn't live in Perth. He lived in Adelaide. And there was a time factor that I had to take into account of him getting from Perth to Adelaide. Now, I knew his ingenuity, but after a week I'd bitten my nails down to the elbows, worrying about him. And so I contacted a correspondent for the Daily Telegraph at the time and said, listen, I got a problem.
There's a dead javelin thrower somewhere between here and Perth.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was hoping not, but I thought he might be able to find out something. And James Coote phoned a correspondent in Adelaide, and they sent somebody round there and found that he was home, and he'd been home a few days. But he'd neglected at that time to let me know he was okay. He was so delighted to be home, forgot all about it.
Well, it has to be said, John, it is a tribute to your box construction that it lasted as well, and that he lasted what became, I think, Mark's was a 68-hour journey.
63 hours, yeah. It originally had been anticipated that it was only going to be 35.
Marcus McSorley, who is, of course, John's son, John being the man who built the box that sent Reg across the world, and it is called Out of the Box, The Highs and Lows of a Champion Smuggler. Guys, thank you very much for coming on.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for having us.